welcome to my channel. My name is Emily. This is my channel, Books for Life. So if you like my content and you like my channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Okay, so today I am here to start the first part of my June wrap up. So we are not quite done with June. It is Saturday, June 27th right now, and I'm really hoping that I can get 3 more books done. So I'm just going to tell you about 6 of the books that I've read so far this month, and then the rest, my part 2, I'll tell you about all of the rest. Hopefully I will have read 12 or 13 books by the end of the month, but I'm just going to tell you about the first 6. So if you watched my May wrap up, I had told you that I was halfway through The Final Empire when May ended, and I did end up finishing this during the month of June, and I really, really loved it. It could have been a standalone all on its own. I am really interested to see where the story is going to go now that this is over. But this is a really interesting book. So it kind of is confusing in the beginning because you are introduced to so many characters and this world is so different, especially the magic system, that it's like an information dump. Not that it feels dumpy. Not that it feels like it's not like he's telling you everything. He's showing you, which actually makes things kind of hard because there are just so many characters. And I did find myself pretty confused, especially like the first 50 pages. But once I figured out who all the key players were, I found that the story ended up going a lot smoother and it was more digestible. So in this world, you have this Lord Ruler, and he saved the world from something. And since then, he has ruled, and it has gone on for thousands of years that he has ruled. And he has kind of created this hierarchy system within, or like government system within his world. And the lowest of the low is the Ska. Now, the Ska are treated basically as slaves, and there is a Ska rebellion. That's like the purpose of this. The Ska are tired of being treated like this. Like, the noblemen have everything. They don't have to work for anything, whereas the Ska can't even get enough food to survive. So you are following this group of, I don't want to say bandits, but kind of this group of people that are working together in order to form a rebellion to overthrow the Lord Ruler. And the 2 key characters are a 15-year-old girl, and her name is Vin. I think she's 15. And then you have Kelsier. So these 2 people are going to be the primary focus, and Vin is kind of recruited into this group, whereas Kelsier is more like the leader, but Vin plays a really important role in the entire book. So the way this magic system works is it all has to do with allomancy, and you have to ingest certain metals, and those metals give you certain powers. And if you run out, like, your magic is done. It's just like you have to have the ability to work with those metals. So it is a gift that you're born with, but it's not just something that you can do if you don't have them. So if you don't have tin or copper or whatever, then you're not able to use those gifts that you have. So certain metals allow you to do different things, and I can't remember all of the specifics with them. And they have a chart actually in the beginning that really helps. So first there's a map. So I didn't use the map as much as I used the back, and the back kind of explained like the different metals and what they were able to do. So for example, iron pulls on nearby metals where steel pushes. So they're able to use iron and steel in order to project themselves over a wall or things like that. And I just thought that this was such a different and unique magic system that I really, really liked this. The other cool thing to note, because this is in the back and sometimes people don't look at the back, so the other cool thing to know if you haven't read this is they have like a glossary in the back. I would highly recommend. I referred to that throughout the book quite a bit. But overall, I love this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was excellent, and I'm so excited to see where the story is going to go. While reading that, I was listening to A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, and I've heard that this series is like amazing. Like, I've only heard really great things. This is our world, right? And if we are living in our world and there are 4 species of people, you have humans, vampires, witches, and demons. And the vampires, witches, and demons know about them, like know about each other, but the humans are completely ignorant. And there are like all these rules that the vampires, witches, and demons have to follow to help make sure the humans stay ignorant of these different species. And you follow this witch, and she's in Oxford. She doesn't really like to use her magical abilities at all. And she ends up taking out this book from the library that has a really important discovery in it. And this ends up drawing those like different creatures to her, which causes a ton of problems. And then it goes from there. I thought this was fine. I enjoyed the story enough that I'm going to continue listening to the series. I didn't love it. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I think it dragged at points. Like, we didn't need as much background information as we were given. I think that it was definitely information dump. Instead of just organically letting us learn about like her past and stuff like that, it like the author just went out and was like, oh, you need to know this and blah 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 blah. Obviously she didn't say you need to know this, but like it didn't flow naturally. I think that the characters are interesting and they mesh well together, and I am curious to see where this is going to go. I think I'll listen to all 3 because it's just a trilogy, and then maybe check out the show on Hulu, but yeah, it was okay. 3 stars. So for the next few months, you're going to hear quite a bit about this readathon that I'm participating in on Facebook. And the idea of this readathon is that we need to read our way across the state. So basically we are taking a bookish road trip, which I am really enjoying. Like, I am enjoying it more than I thought I would because I typically read fantasy, and this is pushing me to pick books off my shelves that I haven't really have on my radar as much because they're not fantasy. And it's exciting to try to be like, oh, I can't read this because it takes place in Massachusetts and I've already read a Massachusetts book. Okay, where does this next book take place? So this is the first book that I read for this readathon, and this is Call It What You Want. So this book takes place in Maryland, and this is the first place that I went to on my journey. And this is also my first book by this author, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was cute. I gave this, I wanted to give it 3.5 stars on Goodreads, but you're not allowed to, so I think I gave it 4. And I thought it was fine. It's not memorable. Like, this is not going to be a book that I can pick up and be like, oh yeah, this is about blah, blah, blah. I'm actually struggling right now to remember what it's about. Oh yeah. So you follow these 2 characters and it alternates perspectives. Robbie, his father was caught embezzling funds and tried to commit suicide when everything like was made public. So Robbie now has to take care of his father, who really can't take care of himself at all, and is an outcast at school because a lot of his friends' parents had invested in his business and have lost everything because of his choices. And so Robbie went from being the star of the lacrosse team with all of the friends he could ever want to an absolute nobody. And then you have Megan, and Megan also has shifted. She was known as like the nerdy girl, the smart girl, and people looked to her because of that. But unfortunately, she made a mistake and she cheated on the SAT and was caught. So everyone hates her because all the people in the room, it invalidated their test and they had to retake it, and now they just consider her a cheater, and her reputation is just down the drain. So you have these 2 kids and they are partnered up for a math assignment. And the story goes. It was fine. That's all I can really say. It was a fine book. If I gave it 4, I feel like now that I've had time to digest it a little bit more, I could even drop it down to a 3 on Goodreads, but it was fine. Next, I listened to a super hyped book on BookTube right now, and this is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I really enjoyed this. I give this 4 out of 5 stars, but the best part is that it took place in a different state. So this took place in Michigan, and I was able to check that off on my list of states to visit. So in this book, you are following two authors, and both of these authors are kind of struggling. They have writer's block and they live next to each other, and they decide to like swap genres. So she typically writes romance novels and he typically writes like literary fiction, and they decide they like have a bet, like, you can't write what I write, blah blah blah. So they end up switching genres, and then they kind of like teach each other like the different quirks about their own genres and how to go about it, and they go on like field trips in order to help the other person along in their writing. They do have history, however. This was not just like this was a random meeting, but this was not just two random people. They did go to college together, and so there's that history there that also adds to the conflict of the story. I did really enjoy this. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. At times it was funny. It hit some heartstrings at times. Overall, it was a well done novel. So then I left Michigan and I went to Massachusetts, where I picked up my first Elin Hildenbrand novel, and this takes place on Nantucket, as a lot of her books do. I guess she has like a whole series that takes place on Nantucket, and this is The Perfect Couple. I really enjoyed this story. I gave this one a solid 4 out of 5 stars. I thought that the characters were really interesting. I loved her descriptions of Nantucket. Like, I've never been there, but I really want to go there now. It sounds gorgeous and sunny and everything I need in my life. This is an interesting story because it's dual timeline, in the sense that you start off and the first character you're introduced to is a cop from Nantucket, and he gets a call that there has been a dead body that washed up, and turns out this is the maid of honor for a wedding that was supposed to take place that day. Then you go back and you start learning about the couple that was going to get married, and you follow like how they got together, and then you go back to the investigation, and you go back to their time in New York City getting to know each other, and then you go back to the investigation. And this family has a lot of secrets, and as you are going back and forth, you're learning different secrets, and then some of the secrets you discover as the cops discover them, and all to like try to figure out, did this maid of honor die because of an accident? Like, was she drunk and she just went into the ocean and drowned? Or did someone murder her? And I really enjoyed this. There were some twists that I didn't see coming. I did have a pretty good hunch as to how it was going to work out, and I ended up being right. I was kind of hoping that something else was going to happen, like there would be this huge plot twist and I would be completely blown away, but I wasn't. So that was a little unfortunate, but I did really enjoy the characters, especially the bride. I really liked her. And the last book I'm going to talk about that I read during the month of June, again, this is only part 1. I have a few more other books to tell you, but the last one for this video is the second book in the Red Rising trilogy series. I know there's 3 books in the main trilogy, and then there are 2 side books. I'm not sure if it's a continuation, if they're just companion novels. I'm not sure, but it's the second book regardless. So this is Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. I did not enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed the first one. I thought that it was a bit confusing, especially in the beginning. Like, I felt like there needed to be like a tagline. Like, I didn't read these back to back. I read the first one during May, and then it's been a couple weeks, and then they would say like some character, and it was like, have I already been introduced to this character? Is this a new character? Like, if this is a character I'm supposed to remember, just add a tagline. Like, give me 1 or 2 sentences that's like, oh, from the Institute, or oh, from this. Like, tell me where, like, just jog my memory, especially in the beginning, because there are so many new characters thrown at us in the beginning, and I thought that was a bit confusing. I also felt like this was action, 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 action. I felt like the first one was plot-driven and character-driven. Like, you got to know both, and like you ended up rooting for Darrow and his cause and everything he was going through. But this one, I felt like it was all action. And we didn't really get time to just like get in Darrow's head and experience what he's experiencing and root for him more. I liked the action, but I kind of got bored because I wasn't as emotionally invested as I was in the first book. The other complaint that I had about this, it would just jump timelines. So we would start a new chapter, and it would be months in advance. And I'm like, wait, how did we get from here to here? And then like later on in the chapter, it would say, oh yeah, a few weeks ago when blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, why wouldn't you start the chapter like that? Like it was confusing at times because of silly things, like things that could have easily helped this flow to go a lot better just didn't happen. And I don't understand why, because I thought Red Rising was phenomenal. Like I gave that 5 out of 5. I love that book. But this one, I'm like, meh. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars because the ending redeemed it a little bit. Like, I was shook by the ending. And I am so excited to pick up Morningstar because I want to know what's going to happen now. But until the, like, last 30 pages, I was only going to give this 3 stars. But that ending was phenomenal. So these are 3 of the physical books that I read during the month of June. I have some others, don't you worry. I'm doing really well with my reading this month, and I hope you liked this video. Let me know if you've read any of these and if we had similar thoughts or if we had differing opinions on them. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit subscribe. I'll be back with more bookish videos soon. As always, keep reading.